I really wanted to do like a running through the hallway opening for this video, but I don't have any hallways in my apartment. Praise Kier, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we are going to be doing another tier list, and we are going to be ranking the ships from Severance. Now, I tried to include most of the popular ships from the show, a few sprinkled in there that I got a little creative with. It would have been the longest video ever to do every single character with every other single character, especially when you start factoring in all of the different innies. It would have just taken forever. So I tried to stick to the most popular ships or the ships that I've seen talked about online. If I missed anything that you guys would have liked me to discuss, let me know down in the comments below. If y'all watched my tier list ranking my most anticipated releases of 2025, then you know how I feel about Severance. It is just the most perfect TV show. I genuinely think it's some of the best TV that we've had in years. It's so well written, so beautifully shot and directed and acted. I mean, everybody on the show is just so good, and season 2 did not disappoint. I was on the edge of my seat the whole season. I was having such a good time, and I'm so glad it got picked up for season 3. I'm so excited to see where it goes next. Do not watch this video if you have not seen the first 2 seasons of Severance. And if you haven't seen the first 2 seasons of Severance, what are you doing? Okay, first let's go through the tiers. Now at the very top we have waffle party worthy. These are going to be the top tier, god tier ships that are very much worthy of their own waffle party celebration. Praise Kier. Then the tier below that we have, they're all really hot. Of course, inspired by the amazing TikTok sound, the unofficial theme song.
Mark is hot, Helly's hot, Irv is hot, Gemma's hot, Dylan's hot, Milkshake's hot. They're all really hot.
And the thing is, it's true. They all are really hot. What a hot cast. This tier is gonna go for those ships that I do love them and I do think that they work, but they're not necessarily just like my favorite of all time, but I would like to see them succeed in some way. Then below that we have MDR besties. So this is gonna be kind of reserved for the ships that maybe I just see them a little bit more platonic or not quite having the sparks that I would want to fully ship them, but they're still MDR besties. They're still gonna be partying up in MDR, sitting next to each other at their desks, refining their data, you know what I mean? Then below that we have devour feculence, which of course means eat shit. This tier is gonna go ahead and be for ships that I don't like. Yeah, I want them to eat shit. I don't like them. Devour feculence. I think you get the idea. And then the very last one is sever me so I can forget this. So these are ships that they offend me so much that I would like to be severed so that I have no memory of them. And that's saying something because I don't believe that you should sever yourself based on what we've seen in the show, but these are so offensive to me, like I need to be severed. Okay, first starting off, we are going to be talking about Bert and Irving, Innie, Irving, and Bert. I wanted to start with this one because I do think this is one of the most popular ships on the show, and I think maybe one of the least controversial. I think everybody can agree that the love story between Bert and Irving was just so pure and innocent and beautiful. Season 1 following them was so fun. I loved seeing, the slow progression of them meeting and Irving kind of breaking down his ideals within Lumen to get closer to Bert, and they had an almost Romeo and Juliet thing going on with the different departments. I just loved them. I loved them so much. It was so sad when Bert had to retire, and you could just tell Irving was just broken after that. Like, he was lost and he didn't know what to do, and continues into a really interesting arc into season 2 with Irving where he's just kind of in fuck it mode. Like, he's like, you know what? They took Bert from me. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want now. Yeah, I love them. They're obviously waffle party worthy, even though Bert has been retired and now Irving has been retired. I hope they find their way to each other somehow. I hope we can make this work. But of course, now we need to talk about outie Bert and gosh, this is gonna get really hard. Outie Bert and outie Irving. I want to talk about them because there's a a bit of a different vibe here with them on the outside. Obviously, they have no memory of the relationship that their innies had, but you do still get the vibe between them. They definitely are feeling something with each other. Does love transcend severance? I don't know. But the more we discover about outie Bert, the more sinister he seems. He's working for Lumen. He was sent to presumably dispose of Irving. And now he does, decide he's just gonna send Irving away and spare his life and stuff. And they do have a moment, but it's just a little more sinister. It's not quite as innocent and adorable as they are in Lumen. So for that reason, I don't know. I almost want to put them in MDR besties because I don't think they're quite, at a relationship point at this point. I am obviously still rooting for them. I think if maybe they reintegrated, things would be different. But I just don't know if I can trust outie Bert yet. I trust outie Irving, but outie Bert, there's just something going on behind those eyes that I don't quite trust yet. So for that reason, I'm going to put them in MDR besties. The next ship we're going to be talking about is Cobell and Ragabi. Now, this is an interesting ship because they don't really interact on the show, but it's a very popular ship online. I think people are just like, those two, they would vibe because they're both so unhinged in their own special way. And I kind of have to agree. They match each other's freak, you know what I mean? So honestly, I'm gonna put Cobell and Ragabi in They're All Really Hot. Strangely enough, I think it works and I think it would actually be really funny and interesting. Speaking of Cobell, everybody knows she has a very specific interest. And that is Mark. Yeah, she has a very, very special interest in Mark, specifically innie Mark. She's just very focused on, especially season 1. So I decided to include them, Cobell and innie Mark, on this list. I don't like it. I don't really like it. Her fascination with him was always a bit creepy, although I never get tired of hearing her say, Mark. Not for me. Weird dynamic, weird vibe, but there is no denying that she has a weird fixation with him. Honestly though, Ragabi also kind of has a fixation with Mark, but outie Mark. Again, something that Cobell and Ragabi have in common. But for innie Mark and Cobell, I'm gonna put that in Devour Feculence because I don't like that. Okay, now we have arguably one of the other biggest ships on the show, innie Mark and innie Heliar. They have definitely been on quite the journey. Season 1, I mean, you're obviously rooting for them all the way up until, oh no, Mark has a wife, and oh no, that wife is Miss Casey. And then it starts, the waters start to get a little bit murky, It's hard because innie Mark and outie Mark do feel like such separate people that you almost forget that they are also the same person. And so I find myself being rooting for Mark and Helly, but then simultaneously rooting for Mark and Gemma, and it's very confusing. Now I will say, after finishing season 2 and watching the season 2 finale, Mark S and Heliar are on my timeout list a little bit. This is a very heated debate online right now with how the finale ended. So I'm gonna try and tread lightly here. Just because the decision that Mark made to go with Helly and run down the freaking halls at the end there and leave Gemma screaming and crying at the door, just because that decision wildly pissed me off and made me so angry, doesn't mean I don't understand where he's coming from. I obviously understand that the innies deserve their own autonomy and should be able to make their own decisions about their lives that have nothing to do with their outies' lives. However, and I will get into this more later, I am Gemma's number one stan. I want her to be happy. Ultimately, that is, I think, my biggest wish from this show is I want Gemma to be happy because she's been through too much. She's been through far too much trauma. So watching that scene was tough for me. That was really tough for me to watch Mark do that to her. Hey, maybe wait to hold hands with this girl until maybe you turn around the hallway so that Gemma doesn't have to see. I don't know. I just feel there was maybe a different way of going about it. It just felt a little bit cruel to me. It did. So for that reason, they're on my timeout list right now. But I do want the best for them. I do want, their love to find a way to survive. I just don't know how that's going to happen at this point. without it being at the expense of Gemma. There is also almost an element to Mark S and Helly R that feels very juvenile, but then they got me when they're talking about the equator. They got me. I was like kind of choking up, like, oh, I'll meet you at the equator. Like, that's very sad. It's so complicated. However, I am gonna put them in They're All Really Hot. I think season 1, I would have definitely put them in waffle party worthy. But after season 2, they're just on timeout for me, okay? I still want the best for them. I still want them to succeed in some way, but they've just pissed me off. Anyway, okay, and sticking on theme a little bit, we now have Innie Mark and Outie Helly. So Mark S and Helena. Ooh, completely different dynamic here. Where to begin? I mean, Helena is a very complicated character, right? Because you do start to see she has grown up in a really twisted family, obviously, right? So you do understand where she's coming from. On the other hand, I do think she's a little psychotic. And the fact that she goes in and poses as Helly R is truly diabolical. And then it's so foul that Mark S didn't pick up on it. Like, Irving was the only one to truly see it. Like, that is so sad for Helly R. And then it's also sad for Mark because, I mean, in a sense, he was kind of SA'd. He goes into the tent during episode 4 with who he thinks is Helly R and proceeds to with who he thinks is Helly R, but it's actually Helena. And that's icky. That's gross. That's gross. I mean, Irving said it best, like, she's cruel. And Helly R was never cruel. Although I can understand where she comes from, that she is messed up in the head due to her upbringing, I don't think that necessarily excuses her actions, and I don't think she deserves Marcus. Yeah, honestly, sever me so I can forget this. I'd like to forget that ever happened. Okay, next we have Innie, Mark, and Petey. Petey, you know, he's one of those characters that wasn't there for very long, but he haunts the narrative a bit. We get the backstory that he and Mark were very close at Lumen. They were like best friends in MDR. And the fact that, you know, he just disappears and Mark doesn't know why is like so sad. Obviously, Petey goes to reintegrate and he goes to try and find Mark on the outside, but it doesn't work out for him, tragically. So I wish we had got more of them because they seem to have a really cute vibe going on. I loved the inside joke of, hey kids, what's for dinner? I do think that they are MDR besties. They are so MDR besties, the OG MDR besties, if you will. Somebody should fill Innie Mark in on what happened to him, because I'm pretty sure he still doesn't know. So I would love for that to be explained to him so he could get some closure on that. Next, we have a ship that is fairly random, but it's Innie Mark and Milchick. I had to get a little creative here. Milchick is just his own guy. He's his own vibe, and he's not really developed really deep relationships with anybody, right? He's very focused on his job, but him and Mark just have such electric beef that I just thought it would be fun to pair them together. And I've seen some really funny edits of people editing them as a couple, especially after the elevator scene when like Milchick gets all up in his face. Milchick, he is just such a complicated character because one second I'm rooting for the guy, right? I'm like, yes, Milchick redemption arc, let's go milkshake. But then the next scene, he's like doing something horribly awful and I want to punch him in the face. I don't think it's gonna work out for Mark and Milchick ultimately. I think there's too much beef there, there's too much history there, but it's a fun idea. I do think ultimately that's gonna go and devour feculence. We don't need to be seeing that, as fun as it would be. And speaking of Milchick, like I said, he doesn't have a strong ship on the show, but I wanted to give him something here, something positive, and that's why I shipped him with The Art of Dance. I think ultimately the most beautiful ending for Mr. Milchick would be for him to quit Lumen and go work as like a choreographer or a theater director. I mean, this man just loves theater. He loves to perform, and I think that that's his one true passion in life, and he should really delve into that and he should explore that more because that's when he's happiest, you know, is when he's dancing. Mr. Milchick and The Art of Dance is waffle party worthy to me. I think that would just be the ideal ending for him. Okay, next we have Outie Mark and Outie Helena. They've only interacted, I think, the one time at the diner, and it's so interesting because like with Irving and Bert, you do pick up on that vibe for them. They don't know each other, but their innies do. The vibe starts to surface between them to the point where they're like almost flirting. It's so interesting with the whole does love transcend severance thing. But all this to say, I just don't like it. No, 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 no. Outie Mark would never. His allegiance is to Gemma, of course. And again, Helena is just so manipulative. In that scene, she's manipulating him, you know? She does know him, and she knows what she's done to him and to his innie. Where am I gonna put it? Devour feculence or sever me so I can forget this? We'll just put it in sever me so I can forget this. Sorry, Helena. I do hope she can find some happiness somewhere. Just leave Mark alone. The next ship is my favorite ship. Mark and Gemma. Outie Mark and Gemma. I think their love is so beautiful. And the fact that we've gotten such limited time with them together in the show, but it's still that strong. They are literally Orpheus and Eurydice. Like, they are a Greek tragedy, and it rips my heart and soul apart, to be completely honest. When we found out that Mark's wife was still alive and that she was in Lumen, my heart broke. Then when we found out what was happening to her there, my heart shattered. Episode 7 of season 2 utterly destroyed me. I was a wreck. They had such a beautiful love story, getting to see them meet and fall in love. Oh God, and the miscarriage stuff was so sad. And then for her to be trapped in Lumen and like all she wants is to get back to Mark. And Mark like is doing everything in his power to get to her. I mean, when Gabi brings up like, hey, you know, I could try to reintegrate you, but it's super dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't hesitate. He's like, do it. I gotta get to my wife. He's got to get to his wife, y'all. Like, I can't. And then the finale, we finally get to see them reunite. One of her innies, one of her many innies, because she's been literally tortured down in Lumen, doesn't know Mark, but still finds it in herself to trust him. It comes back to, you know, does love transcend severance? And to go with him through that door. And then we get to see Gemma and Mark reunite. And you can just feel their love. I mean, their chemistry is just so palpable. And then Gemma getting left at the door at the end. I just want her to be happy. I mean, she's been through too much. If these two do not get their happy ending, I'm going to riot. I think it's obvious. This is waffle party worthy for me. They are the ultimate ship on the show for me. They're beautiful. They've twisted the Greek tragedy and they've turned it around because now Mark is the one that's trapped in Lumen and she's on the outside. I've been listening to the Hades Town soundtrack so much, just picturing Mark and Gemma. Okay, next we have Dylan G and Gretchen. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about Dylan yet. I love Dylan so much, and it was so interesting getting to see him this season find somebody that he's connected to like he is with Gretchen. But then, you know, there's the layer of it of that's not actually his wife, that's his Outie's wife. Again, they have this chemistry, and she's starting to see in him the things that she misses from her husband back home, and it's really interesting. It's this weird cheating storyline, but with the same person, which you could only ever do on Severance, right? Gretchen decides, you know, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this to my husband. So she goes and kind of breaks things off with Dylan, but Dylan is so desperate to keep her around. Like, he literally tries to propose to her. It's so heartbreaking and so sad, but I want the best for those two crazy kids. I'm gonna put them in They're All Really Hot. I think if they could find some way to find their way to each other, maybe Dylan reintegrates. That's one where I think the reintegration could maybe work out. It's interesting to think about though, because then on the flip side, the next ship we have here is Outie Dylan and Gretchen. They have a completely different dynamic, right? It's very detached. They clearly have kind of fallen out of love in a sense. It's just very lackluster between them. He's like very understanding of his innie when he writes him the letter like, hey, I understand, you know, she's great. But his Outie and her definitely do not have the same chemistry that the innie and her do, which is obviously intentional. But I'm not mad at them or anything. You know, they didn't offend me. I'm gonna put them in MDR besties. I think best case scenario for these three, let's reintegrate Dylan, okay? And then we can all be happy. Okay, next we have Devin and her husband, Rickon. What an interesting pairing these two are. She's so much cooler and smarter and better, I feel, in every way. It just makes you think, like, why is she with Rickon? Why? You know, I could understand maybe she's a very serious person, so Rickon, you know, brings some light into her life maybe, but I don't like it. Devin deserves better, especially after this season. Like, Rickon was being hella sus, selling his book to Lumen and his conversations with Natalie. I'm gonna put them in Devour Feculence. I'm not into Devin and Rickon. Not into it. Which brings me to my next ship, which is Devin and any person that isn't Rickon, but specifically a woman. Devin is she's giving lesbian, or bi at the very least. And I just think Devin would thrive with a woman. I've seen some people be like, oh, maybe her and Ragabi, and I was gonna put that, but I wasn't totally feeling it. I think she should leave Rickon. What's he providing for her at the end of the day? I think Devin should be with a woman. And I'm gonna put that in Waffle Party worthy, because I think that would be awesome if that happened. I'd love to see somebody introduced, a new love interest for Devin introduced. Let's get that cooking in season 3, y'all. I almost feel like if Devin had been the one to be severed and she went to work at Lumen and she was working in MDR, I feel like her and Helly would have vibed. They almost have a similar rebellious energy to them. And finally, the final ship, and what I think would be the ultimate ship to come out of this show, would be the polycule between Mark, Marcus, Heliar, Helena, Gemma, and all of Gemma's innies. So Miss Casey, etc., etc. Everybody wins in this scenario. We'll figure out some sort of system. I've seen people draft up houses that have different severed floors. I've seen people propose maybe they'll switch off days. You gotta work out something to make this work so that we can all live happily ever after. Nobody has to break up. Nobody has to die. Mark and Gemma can continue to thrive. Mark S and Helly R can continue to thrive. We don't have to choose, right? We can all win. We can all be happy, and I think this is the only way I can see for that to happen. So this is Waffle Party worthy for me. Let's get on it, y'all. Let's make this happen. Let's figure out a way to make this work for everybody so we can all be happy and live happily ever after, and there'll be no tragedies, no Greek tragedies in sight here. Right? Right? So there you have it. That is my completed tier list for the most popular Severance ships. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments down below. I'm sure lots of people disagree, but hey, these are my thoughts, my tier list, so you're gonna have to deal with it. I love Severance. It is one of my favorite shows. I can't wait for season 3. Hopefully we get it a little bit quicker this time. If you guys would like me to make more videos about Severance, let me know. But otherwise, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys with another video soon. Bye! Mark is hot, Helly's hot, Herb is hot, Gemma's hot, Dylan's hot, Milkshake's hot. They're all really hot.